No cameras were around, no microphones were turned on, but everything inside the palace changed in just a few moments. Camilla, who had always seemed untouchable and protected, got caught saying shocking things about Princess Catherine. What she said made Catherine cry, and it made Prince William furious. For years, William stayed quiet, following tradition and staying loyal to his father. But this time, he couldn't stay silent. He made a bold choice and took away Camilla's royal privileges. And the news shook the entire monarchy. This wasn't just a personal matter, it was a big moment in royal history. Because this time, the future king didn't protect the crown. He stood up for his queen. Camilla didn't expect the moment that would change everything. It all happened quietly behind palace doors during what was supposed to be just a normal planning meeting. But things took a surprising turn, and the royal family was left scrambling. One senior member of the household staff, someone known for being very discreet and trusted, accidentally overheard something shocking. Inside one of Windsor's side rooms, Queen Camilla was reportedly scolding Princess Catherine in a harsh and intense voice that no one expected. The things she said weren't just rude, they were deeply personal. According to several insider accounts, Camilla questioned Catherine's loyalty to the royal family and even said she cared too much about being loved by the public. She was said to have made fun of Catherine's calm personality, how she handled the press, and, in a particularly hurtful moment, even insulted her as a mother. The staff member, shocked by what they heard, did something that rarely happens in royal service. They decided to act. They wrote down everything that happened and gave it directly to Prince William's private secretary within just a few hours. Even though William had heard rumors for a long time about tension between the two women, this was different. This time, it wasn't just whispers or gossip, it was first-hand proof. Insiders at the palace say that this moment broke the silence that had been kept for years. For a long time, the tension had been ignored, pushed aside, or explained away as just normal family issues. But this time, it was too mean, too loud, and too obvious to ignore. And even though there had been quiet complaints about how Camilla treated Catherine before, this was the first time someone actually stood up and did something about it, risking royal disapproval to protect the future queen. William, who had always avoided facing the issue head-on, now had no choice. People who work with him said he reacted quickly and strongly. He didn't raise his voice or make threats, but his expression said it all. One person described him as a man who had finally reached his breaking point. As news of what Camilla said spread among the staff and throughout the private halls, one thing became very clear. Things couldn't stay the same. Camilla had crossed a line, and this time there would be real consequences. The royal system, which always worked hard to protect the crown at all costs, was shaken by the quiet bravery of one staff member, and what happened next would send shockwaves through the heart of the royal family. Years of built-up tension behind closed doors. Even before this major event, the signs had been there for a long time. Behind the smiling pictures, holiday photos, and formal events, there had always been a quiet tension between Queen Camilla and Princess Catherine. And those close to the family say it had been there from the very beginning. Camilla, who had spent years fixing her public image after Diana's tragic death, reportedly didn't feel comfortable with how popular Catherine was becoming. Kate was elegant, calm, and adored by the people. And for Camilla, that felt too familiar. She had seen the public fall in love with Diana, and now she was afraid it was happening again with Catherine. Even though Camilla never said anything against Catherine in public, people who knew the royal family well described her behavior behind the scenes as cold and dismissive. She would often make remarks about Catherine not being born into aristocracy, saying her background was too middle class for the royal family. One aide even remembered Camilla saying, "The monarchy needs breeding, not branding." Over time, her comments got sharper. She started making subtle digs about Catherine's fashion choices, her friendly relationship with the media, and even her hands-on approach to parenting. These remarks came up during internal talks. Staff who overheard these things said they were often brushed off as jokes, but they hurt. William, who always tried to be respectful toward Camilla as his father's wife, tried to be a peacekeeper for years. But those who were close to him say he could see how much Catherine was struggling. Even though Catherine always looked calm and graceful in public, her closest friends noticed she seemed more tired and worn out. She almost never complained, but the constant pressure of having to prove herself in a place that was supposed to feel like home was exhausting. And as William took on more royal duties and responsibility, Catherine's role became even more important. The public loved her. Leaders around the world admired her. She was becoming more than just a duchess or a princess. She was becoming a queen in every way that mattered. And maybe that's what made Camilla's jealousy grow stronger. Because, in her eye, there could only be one queen. And Catherine, without even trying, was turning into everything the public dreamed a royal should be. The palace had tried to keep the situation under control. Family advisors had tried to smooth things over. But jealousy doesn't follow royal rules. And the longer it was ignored, the closer it came to blowing up. The breaking point came with a cruel verbal attack. What changed everything wasn't something planned. It wasn't part of a public appearance, and the palace definitely never wanted the world to hear about it. But it happened, and it left Catherine in tears. It all started during what seemed like a simple meeting in one of Windsor's hallways. Just a casual talk about upcoming events involving the king and the Waleses. But then, something changed. Insiders say Camilla grew irritated. She felt like she was being left out of the planning. And then, she exploded. "You'll never truly be queen," she reportedly said, staring straight at Catherine. "Not in this lifetime." The room went completely quiet. Nobody said a word. Catherine, who was always calm and composed, looked shaken. She tried to keep the conversation going, but Camilla wasn't done. She accused Catherine of trying to steal the spotlight from the royal family, of using her popularity with the public like a weapon, and of outshining not just Camilla, but even King Charles. "She thinks she's Diana all over again," Camilla was heard saying. "But Diana didn't break this family. She did." Those words hit like daggers. One person in the room said Catherine walked out quietly and didn't come back for the rest of the day. And when William found out what happened, he didn't wait. This wasn't just a few unkind words. This was a full-on verbal attack driven by jealousy and power. It wasn't about Catherine's popularity. It was about her place in the royal family. What shocked the staff most wasn't just what Camilla said, but that she said it in front of others. That kind of boldness, that lack of restraint, showed just how deep her feelings really went, and it made something clear. Camilla didn't just dislike Catherine, she felt threatened by her. But what she didn't expect was for William to finally take action, not just as Catherine's husband or as the father of her children, but as the future king. William's breaking point had arrived. When the report of Camilla's harsh words reached him, something inside him snapped. He had put up with tension for years. For the crown, for the public, and especially for his father. But this time, Catherine was crying. And for William, that changed everything. Sources say he was told about the incident that same night. One aide remembers his reaction clearly. "I warned her. This was her last chance," he said. There was no yelling, no threats, just a cold silence that said more than words. The next day, he refused to see Camilla, not in private, not in meetings, not even at family events. Instead, he asked for a private meeting with King Charles. That meeting took place in the king's personal study and lasted almost 2 hours. No one officially knows what was said behind those doors. But one insider said William was very clear. If she cannot respect Catherine, she has no place beside her in public. Charles was caught off guard. He tried to smooth things over, but he also realized this wasn't just a personal issue anymore. It had become a matter of respect. And for William, it had become official royal business. Not long after that meeting, quiet changes started happening behind the scenes. Camilla was quietly taken off the schedule for future events that involved Catherine. Her calendar started to clear up. Her name stopped showing up on invitation lists. She didn't attend some briefings she used to go to. It wasn't announced publicly, but it was carried out, carefully and with purpose. Inside the palace, whispers began about the new boundary, the Wales line, a line meant to protect Catherine. One royal insider said, "William didn't ask for revenge. He asked for space. And now he's getting it." This wasn't about power or titles. It was about standing up for someone he loved, a prince protecting his wife, a future king standing by his future queen. And by doing this, He sent a message that the palace couldn't ignore. The days of staying quiet and suffering in silence were over. The quiet removal of Camilla's royal privileges had begun. There was no big announcement, no change in title. But behind closed doors, Camilla's role in the royal family started to disappear. Slowly and with great care, important responsibilities were taken away from her. First, her name was missing from the spring charity event list, even though she had helped host those events for years. Then came the trooping the color plans. Camilla had always stood right next to King Charles on the balcony, but this time only Charles, William, and Catherine were confirmed to appear. After that, invites to formal dinners and military ceremonies that she would normally attend were quietly cancelled. She was also no longer included in any events with the Wales children. No one made an official statement, but everyone in the palace understood what was happening. This was a quiet, deliberate distancing. "She's still queen consort," said one palace insider, "but only in name." Another added, "She's being gently pushed aside, completely." Even Camilla's personal team noticed the changes. Some of her longtime staff were moved to new jobs or given long leave. Others were told to report through King Charles's office instead of her own. This could be a sign that her control inside the palace was being quietly reduced. And all of this happened without a single press leak or formal announcement. But the public began to notice. News outlets started reporting on her missing from events. Social media users pointed out her absence, and royal watchers started saying a new phrase, title without presence. Camilla had worked for years to go from being disliked to being accepted as queen consort. But now, to both the public and those inside the palace, it seemed like she was being quietly removed. This wasn't a tabloid scandal with big headlines. It was a quiet correction, a consequence that looked like just another royal protocol. And the person behind it all? Prince William, calm, focused, and done playing games with his family's well-being. Catherine's quiet response said more than words ever could. While everything was falling apart behind the scenes, Princess Catherine stepped forward with elegance and calm. Just 3 days after the incident, she made a public appearance. And what she wore sent a message louder than any official statement. On her coat, she pinned Princess Diana's sapphire brooch, the same one Diana wore during her most meaningful humanitarian visits. The jewels sparkled in the sunlight, resting just above Catherine's steady posture. People noticed immediately. Royal fans flooded social media with admiration. "She walked in like a queen," one person commented. "Not a single trace of drama on her face." Others noticed her gentle wave, her warm smile, and how sweetly she interacted with the children she met that day. But those who looked a little closer saw something even deeper. Her posture was firmer. Her silence had more strength. Catherine hadn't just shown up, she had taken her rightful place. She didn't respond to the rumors. She didn't mention the confrontation. She simply kept going, as if to say, "I'm unshaken. I'm not stepping aside." Inside the palace, even the most skeptical officials started to look at her differently. This wasn't a woman caught in a scandal. This was the future of the royal family, graceful, strong, and deeply loved. As media coverage grew, so did the hashtags. #AQueenInWaiting, #Justice for Kate, Grace under fire. And every time Catherine made another public appearance, those hashtags lit up again. Her calm presence became a symbol of endurance. She had been hurt, but not defeated. Mocked, but never broken. And through her quiet strength and dignified grace, she became more than just a royal wife. She became the heart of the monarchy. Public outrage and support came flooding in. The backlash was fast and global. As soon as news of the incident leaked, hashtags like #StandWithKate, #QueenInWaiting, and @NotMyQueen started trending on Twitter and TikTok. Thousands of people shared messages of love and support for Catherine. They called her a real royal, the people's queen, and the only woman worthy of Diana's legacy. This wasn't just a royal story anymore. It had turned into a full-blown movement. People from all ages and backgrounds expressed frustration, not just toward Camilla, but toward the system that allowed this kind of behavior to go on for so long. Catherine, who had always carried herself with dignity, was suddenly being seen as a powerful symbol of quiet strength. And Camilla? Her carefully repaired image was falling apart. Major news networks like CNN, Sky News, and Australia's 7 News aired the story in primetime segments. Even celebrities spoke out. British icons and Hollywood stars posted messages of support for Catherine. One viral tweet read, "She wears grace like armor, and the world sees it." The mood of the public had shifted, and there was no going back. Camilla's reputation, already complicated by her past, was now under heavy scrutiny. People started digging into old interviews, past headlines, and even old royal documentaries, wondering if this kind of behavior had always been there, just hidden under royal traditions. Online petitions started popping up, demanding an apology. Some even called for Camilla to step down voluntarily, but the palace said nothing. That silence only made things worse, because when the palace stayed quiet, the public chose their own side. They chose Catherine, and when she showed up again, this time at a children's hospital, gently smiling and holding hands with a young cancer survivor, the debate was over. The world had made its choice. Now, the spotlight turned to King Charles. Inside the palace, the atmosphere had grown tense and cold. King Charles now faced an impossible situation. He was caught between the woman who had stood by him through scandal and the son who represented the future of the monarchy. Sources say Charles was deeply shaken by William's firm stance. Not because he disagreed, but because he saw the bigger picture. Camilla's role had become politically dangerous. Her presence now risked undoing all the work the royal family had done to rebuild its image. Top advisors began quietly suggesting a gentle shift in roles. They recommended that Camilla start pulling back from public duties, blaming it on health and needing rest. Meanwhile, Catherine's responsibilities quietly began to grow, but not everyone agreed. A small group of traditionalists reportedly urged Charles to stand by Camilla more strongly. They thought the public reaction was too extreme, but Charles, known for being sensitive to public opinion, understood what was really at stake. One palace insider said it simply, "He remembers what happened with Diana. He's not going to let history repeat itself." In the days that followed, Charles reportedly met with both Camilla and William, but separately. No official statements were made. Still, Camilla's next few weeks of events were quietly cancelled, and the king's internal struggle became obvious. Support his wife and risk upsetting the people, or support his son and protect the crown. In the end, the crown came first, and Camilla's royal world started to shrink. Inside the palace, the staff began choosing sides. Behind the elegant portraits and golden halls of Buckingham Palace, something unspoken had begun. It wasn't loud, it wasn't written down, but it was powerful. A quiet war was starting, and the staff were picking who to support. At the center of it all was the fallout from Queen Camilla's shocking clash with Princess Catherine. What used to be subtle tension suddenly turned into clear division. The mood inside changed almost overnight. Friendly greetings became cautious glances. Politeness shifted to suspicion. Trust wasn't automatic anymore. It had to be earned. Royal staff, the people who plan events, arrange transportation, write speeches, and manage palace communication, started quietly taking sides. Some strongly supported William and Catherine. They admired their calm and modern leadership. They also remembered how well the couple treated everyone, from the top aides to the junior staff. They recalled how Catherine always sent handwritten thank you notes after every event, and how William made sure even the newest employees felt appreciated. To them, this couple wasn't just royalty. They were leaders who cared. "You can feel the difference in their office," one young communications assistant said quietly. "It's organized, professional, but still kind. They don't yell. They don't blame. Catherine listens, and that's rare in this world." Staff working in charity planning and public events started speaking more highly of the Wales office. Some even asked to be moved there. It was a quiet shift, but a very meaningful one. Still, not everyone was okay with these changes. Some longtime aides, people who had helped Camilla go from scandal to queen consort, felt threatened by what was happening. They had stood by her during her lowest points. when the public didn't support her and Diana's memory still loomed large. To them, this backlash wasn't fair. "This isn't bullying," one of Camilla's personal aides reportedly said. "It's being twisted by the media and people who want attention. Camilla has worked harder than anyone to earn her place. Now people act like she never belonged. That's just wrong. She's always been loyal." But the division continued to grow. Meetings that used to run smoothly began to fall apart. Briefings were delayed. Agendas were changed without warning. Even basic things like who rode in which car or who stood in group photos became difficult to manage. Staff started checking who would be in the room before they dared to speak freely. Whispers replaced open conversation. There were even reports of staff asking to be transferred between departments because they felt uncomfortable. Events were rescheduled at the last minute. Team meetings were split into smaller, separate groups. Schedules were adjusted carefully, not to save time, but to avoid conflict. At one point, insiders claimed that even William and Charles had to coordinate their public appearances around these internal staff tensions, not for security or press reasons, but because their staff couldn't work together smoothly across the growing divide. Yet through all this chaos, Catherine remained steady. Her team stayed calm, professional, and completely silent. They didn't release any statements. They didn't spread any stories to the press. They didn't add to the drama, and they didn't need to, because the message had already been made clear. Staying calm is a sign of strength. Grace is real power, and silence, when it holds the truth, can speak louder than any words. All across the palace, even people who had stayed loyal to Camilla started to see that real power was shifting, not because of a crown, not because of an order, but because of trust. And by that point, everyone inside those royal walls could feel it. Catherine hadn't just survived the storm, she had made it through stronger than ever. The royal future has changed forever. What started as one private outburst inside the palace has now reshaped the monarchy's core. William's decision to pull away from Camilla wasn't just about emotion. It became a historic moment in royal life. For the first time in many years, a future king stood up, not for image, not for tradition, but for his wife. And by doing that, he didn't just protect Catherine. He lifted her up. Camilla might still be called queen consort, but her influence is shrinking. Her calendar has fewer events. Her public appearances are rare. Her voice in royal matters is fading quietly. Catherine, on the other hand, is moving forward into a new chapter, not by demanding it, but by living it. She is the future. She's modern, relatable, and resilient. A woman who knows her value but doesn't show off. A loving mother, a supportive partner. And now, without needing a crown, she's a queen in all the ways that matter. The public has spoken. They trust her. The palace staff support her, and the royal family's future depends on her. As for William, he's made it clear to the world that he will protect his family, even if it means shaking the very foundation he was born into. Because this isn't just about being royal. It's about love, setting boundaries, and building a monarchy that must evolve to survive. And in that evolution, Catherine doesn't just belong, she's leading the way. William's bold move didn't just defend his wife, it rewrote the rules of royalty. Camilla may have the official title, but Catherine now holds the crown in the people's hearts. And as the palace tries to recover from all that's happened, one truth is now impossible to ignore. Disrespect behind closed doors comes with real consequences, especially when the future king is watching.